natural look today. I am starting a little bit early. I have a hard cutoff time at 12:45 my time. It is 10:54 now. Welcome to the Celestic Intelligence Podcast. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining me, for subscribing. It helps the algorithm when you subscribe and you like and you comment on the posts. So if you're finding that this information is helpful to you, please do that. It helps to support my work. I also have a link in my bio on YouTube. It's called Buy Me a Coffee, and my handle is at Soulestic, Soulestic. So if you are inspired to support my work, I would appreciate if you could go over to the Buy Me a Coffee website and send me a $5, whatever you feel is good energy for you. Ooh, okay, so I wanted to start early because I wanted to get some of these introductions out and to start delivering one of the interesting pieces of social and emotional intelligence, which is innovation and creativity. Now, there's a frequency test that you can take, and if you want a little bit more information on that, please private message me at Amelie, Amelie, at soulesticintelligence.com, and or message me on YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram, wherever you can locate me. And there's a lot of avenues to do that. And we could talk about your frequency test. So, what is the frequency test? It's it's an assessment, a self-assessment that you perform, and it will deliver some results of where you are in every frequency of the 26 social and emotional intelligence modalities or competencies, and that will thereby help you to see where you thrive and maybe some areas that you can improve and bump up your number. So, I have a few different materials today to share with you. It's going to be a pretty extensive chat, but first and foremost, let's really look into defining innovation and creativity. So, as we look at what is innovation, what is creativity, one of the things that you're going to notice is that there is a certain genius that is going on here. We were talking yesterday in my digital series about writer's block or just blocks in general of not knowing a creative way to get around that block or whatever the obstacle or situation is that you're looking to overcome. So there is this human genius portion of it, and then there's also this divine connection. Hello, yes. This is going to be a fun subject. It's going to be awesome. So innovation in itself is not just hi Ed, Wierzbowski. I hope I said that right. Innovation is not just being smart or being super genius or having a high IQ or anything like that. Being innovative is being able to look at situations differently. So I have this is the social and emotional intelligence toolkit. Um, it's a rather big book, you can see. I just have it in this binder, and I have my results from that at the end here. So let's talk about innovation and creativity, just to give it a little definition. So this is being open to and actively pursuing novel ideas and new approaches. So when we think about novelty, novelty is actually, if you're looking at it from a brain chemistry function, novelty is that dopamine hit that you get. It's that dopamine of a aha or an insight or something new, or something is entering my field that is new. So it's novelty is outside. It's sitting in It's not the norm, it's sitting outside of that. And we were talking yesterday also about a couple of the studies and articles, a study and an article that I had written a paper on. And the study was on, is human creative story writing better than the AI generated story writing? And if so, how can we measure it? So they had all these measurements and indexes. The study was done by Doshi and Hauser in 2024, if you guys are interested in looking that up. But they define creativity as novelty and usefulness. So that is their measurement of what is something that's novel. As I said, the in that study, they determined or concluded that the AI, generative AI, so think ChatGPT, think Pi.ai, trying to think of the other ones, Copilot, Gemini, any of these AI architectures are going to look at not just the they're going to look at everything and they're going to aggregate it to its most average form. So the information that you're going to get from AI is going to be average. They determined that there's not very much novelty in that. The people that were less creative and they were using AI actually they had good storylines, they had some novelty, but the whole story in general was very bland. I've helped people get over their writer's block in the past. Human creativity will always be better than AI. I agree, Stephen, and I appreciate that mention because, yes, in this study, it was concluded that human creativity, our ability to access novelty, is far greater than anything that AI can do at the moment. I don't know if it will change in the future. I'm not like taking it off the table, but the technology, the human technology that we have to access novel ideas, the usefulness of the story, and giving it a twist and an edge. I was watching Usual Suspects the other day, and we have this like book and movie group that we read a book and we watch movies together and kind of discuss it. And most of us are in our like millennial or Gen X age brackets. So when these movies were coming out, they were novel. And The Usual Suspects is not outside of that, right? It was very novel when it came out. Nobody saw it coming in The Usual Suspects at that time. We didn't have not that we didn't have the ability to look at it from the perspective that it is, but when movies like that come out and they become these cult classics, is because there is this beautiful novelty put into the storytelling. The plot twist at the end, if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, I don't want to say spoiler alert, but it's from I think 94, 95. So it's not like it's a new movie and I'm spoiling it for anybody. But the thing that I noticed and the thing that was really funny to me was we're watching this movie from the mid 90s and we have somebody that was born I think he was born in 2000. So he's like 25 years old. And as he's watching it, he's saying, at the end, concluded, he's like, oh, I knew that it was him. I knew that it was that. I knew that that was going to be the end of the movie, right? So there was no novelty in it for him. I mean, it was an interesting movie, but he didn't have the burst of, oh my gosh, this is really blowing my mind. I'm in disbelief. And that's kind of where we want to get when we look at pursuing these novel ideas or new approaches to things. Stephen says, I've been practicing hypnotherapy for about a decade now. That's how I've tried to help people in the past. Have you heard of it? Yes, I do hypnotherapy probably once or twice a month. I have a coach that I go to and we do energy work weekly. So yeah, I've been doing that as well. So, looking at that and having his opinion be, I knew that that was going to happen. Well, yeah, you did know that was going to happen. That idea that sparked from the usual suspects storyline has been integrated into future entertainment now. People saw that plot twist and how exciting it was, and how many people raved about it. In fact, it still is a cult classic movie. But now that we're kind of at this end of the novelty of it, and it's been embedded into all of the storytelling in current movies, it's lost a little bit of its novelty because now it's so commonplace, because now that idea has been widespread and widely accepted. So yeah, when you do watch a movie like that from the past, and you've been subjected to this kind of novel idea, that novelty is going to lose itself a little bit. Hi, Mike. Welcome back. So people with this competency, and this is one of my highest frequency competencies in my test, is innovation and creativity. I'm generally loaded with all kinds of ideas, which is why I can take something like the Digital Age series and run with it and have like all of these bursts of brilliance in looking at that. In fact, after I did my show yesterday, or my podcast yesterday on the digital age, now that I did that, after that, I had an even more of this innovation and creativity spark, because I'm open to the architecture and understanding the framework, but then also this novel idea of where are we going in the future. So it's almost like future telling. And I rated really high on futuristic stuff. Thanks, Mike. Love that big brain ears. I don't know if it's big, it's just connected. It's connected to a bigger brain. Okay, so people with this competency are going to seek out fresh ideas from a wide variety of sources. So when I am looking at a problem, I'm looking at, okay, what do I know already? So I've got a really strong background in reading the Bible. So there's this huge spiritual aspect that I'm looking at. I spend a lot of time nerding out on political stuff, so researching the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the sources of their information that they were getting during that, what we can term the Light Age. So the Light Age led to the founding of America, and then the founding of America led to this industrial age where machines replaced the labor and innovated in a certain capacity. And now we're entering this digital age. So we're looking at, a few different centuries here of progress that we've been going through. And so it's those kind of things that I'm gathering from these different sources and pulling them all together. So it's not just the historical piece. I'm also looking at the archetype piece. I'm looking at this, mythical storytelling of why were the stories like that? What are they telling us? And how are we going to progress in the future with all of this information? So people with high level or high frequency of innovation and creativity, they are going to look at a wide variety of sources. What are my resources? What is the information? How am I going to get through this block or this problem and solve it? They're also open to and consider new and original solutions to problems. So, not just we've always done it this way, but looking at what are some other ways that we can do it and would it be better? So, lean manufacturing is like I've done lean manufacturing in my career. And so lean manufacturing is just that. It's like being open and considering different ideas. How can we produce this with less material? How can we produce this with less labor? How can we have an optimal shortcut and not shortchange the quality or shortchange the cost of the solution, and ongoing save money? Do you think we need to bring manufacturing back? I think that manufacturing in the direction that it's going is going to be even more roboticized, and I think that that is probably the likely place that it goes to. So There's always new developments in how to package a box, how to, there's all different kinds of robots that will do different manufacturing things, even CNC machines, which are the machines that will like cut little pieces with accuracy. Those are programmable, and now they require less people to do those things. And then there's other innovative things that we have, like 3D printers that will help to, get a piece that you may not necessarily be able to source from out of the country. Yes, but we need it back here so that we are not reliant on anyone else. Well, I think we're going to be coming up with machines that are going to make that old manufacturing process irrelevant in the future. When I think about, I often think about this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Fifth Element. There's a moment when Lilu has become in her human form, in her human body, but she's, the fifth element. She's in her body and she's sitting there and she's watching the information, going really, really quickly from A to Z. She's like taking all of the history and information of humanity into herself. And the thing that makes me laugh in that scene is she goes over to what looks like a microwave. She pushes a button. There's nothing in there. She puts a plate in there. There's nothing else is in there. She pushes a button for a roast chicken and she gets this roast chicken out. So when we think about manufacturing, we need to think about how it's going to be innovated to be a lot cleaner, a lot more helpful to our situation. Hi, Zindaji. Thank you for joining. Love from America. So people with this people with this competency, and I'm laughing because it's really funny to me, but ask lots of questions to generate new ideas. They encourage others to brainstorm and think out loud. And I can't tell you how many times I've asked the same question but different ways, and the person that I'm asking is getting frustrated of like, I've already answered that from a different perspective, and I'm just like sitting there pressing, like asking different ways of, I need to get this information out of you. There's a certain idea or a certain thought that I need to hear in order to like move on to the next step. So they ask lots of questions. They encourage others to brainstorm and to think out loud. And think out loud protocol is one of the ways that you can, that is a scientific term for brainstorming or for decision making. So when you're making decisions, think out loud protocol is one of the methods that you can use in order to find a solution to your problem. People with this competency take fresh perspectives and risks in their thinking. They also question accepted practices. Like I said, they're going to look at is it we're doing this just because it's always been done that way, or are we doing this because it is a better way of doing it? So they'll question the accepted practices, the patterns, the assumptions, looking at it from a fresh perspective all the time. They're constantly looking at it as in, is there a way that I can do this a lot easier and save time, money, resources, whatever? They strive to find new ways of doing things, and they strive to see things newly and are naturally curious people. So if you find yourself a very curious person like me, I love talking with my chatbot AI, ChatGPT. His name is Valentine, and we like literally I just talk cosmology with him. I'm not talking about like daily decision making. I talk about relationships, cosmology, archetypes, some history, and kind of spanning out and saying, is there another direction that I can take this thought process and expand it? And it's been very helpful to me. So I use it as a tool in my life and not as a decision maker or as something that's leading me. I'm using it to reveal codes and not necessarily give me validation in my life. Am I making the right decision if I go back to school? Am I making the right decision to go back to work? If I choose this job, is it better than this job? I'm not like asking it that kind of question. Some of the things I do ask are, you know, like I was asking I was asking Valentine yesterday, like, what is the light age and how does that correspond? And really looking at the timeline here and looking at if we're using AI, what would be the wheat users of AI and what would be the chaff version of the users of AI? Are the wheat, what are they seeking? What is the percentage of people? How are they using it? Just some data that I want so that I can put it in my mind and process it. So that it helps stimulate that curiosity that I have. Then the last thing of people with this competency is they're flexible and adaptable. Now, when you're innovative and creative, you're going to view failure as feedback. Okay, the failure is feedback, and you can apply this to all aspects of your life. It doesn't have to be work. It can be things in your personal life where you're like, oh man, like that's just not going the way that I want. I'm getting feedback from that. The relationship that I'm in, it's like I'm starting to feel unfulfilled in it. That's the feedback. So what can I do that can change that relationship so that it is something that is successful and not a failure? And then the final thing is they don't beat themselves up about the failures. They see them as feedback. So they'll say, this is the example in the book, well, that's one idea that doesn't work. Let's try something else. That kind of thinking. People that lack this competency, they'll worry and become anxious when they have to shift priorities or deal with change. And I'm not, as I'm reading this, I just want to really illustrate that even though some of these competencies might be positive for one area, they might be negative for another. So, really, just kind of being able to analyze where you're sitting with them. These people lacking in innovation and creativity will respond negatively to new situations and complain. I don't know if you've ever been in a job where you've had to update the enterprise resource planner, which is an ERP system where like accounting, manufacturing, inventory, purchasing, quality, all of that stuff resides, sales and marketing reside in that software, and you're getting ready to roll it out, and then like these key positions are resistant to it. Oh no, we've always done it this way. We're not changing. We're not going to adopt the new way of doing things. They're inflexible of how they see things, and they're hesitant to take on new challenges. We've always done it this way. Why change it? Even though it could be the most time consuming, repetitive, boring things, instead of like, okay, well, this will automate these things and now I can focus on these other things. They don't see things from that outside the box perspective. And then they can't change track when confronted with changing circumstances. So rolling out these new ideas is going to take them a lot more time because they're low in this frequency of innovation and creativity. I'm not going to go over all the development tips, but I did want to talk about, there was a piece in here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I did want to talk about some tips. Not the development tips, but the tips just in general. So I want to, before we go any further, illustrate everybody is creative in some respect or another. And you're innately creative because at some point you're going to have to solve a problem creatively. Sometimes you're going to have things that get in your way. work, expectations from others, deadlines, meetings, appointments, clutter, exhaustion, like these things may get in your way. So, from the Institute of Social and Emotional Intelligence, these are the tips that they offer of how to bring back some of that creativity and innovation into your daily life. I'm teaching right now. Yeah, I do teach. Well, I do personal mentorship, but I use in YouTube as a method to teach some of the stuff. So here's some ideas that they have offered that I thought were really good, and some of them I had touched on. So one is design an environment that promotes creativity. So when we're looking at what environment we have, we're looking at, okay, I like to sit in this space. I like to have plants around me. I like to have cool air. It needs to be, this certain temperature. I like to have this blanket or this pillow or these toys or, this exercise equipment in order to boost my creativity. If I get a block, I want to be able to jump on a trampoline for, 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes and get some of my body moving and get some air and oxygen into my brain so that I can think and have more powerful mechanisms of figuring out what my problem is and how to solve it. So, the environment in which we live in has a powerful impact on how we think, feel, and ultimately to our creativity. So, if you're in a boring, poorly lit, cluttered, hectic, overworked environment, I'm thinking about the telemarketers. I did telemarketing for a few months in my younger years. I was like not even 20. And those offices were very sterile. I mean, they had to be. You're not in a creative environment. You're in a read the prompt, make the sale, close the thing, do whatever the situation is. I think I was doing like credit card balance transfers, and that's all I did all day. And so it was, this like very bluish white walls, fluorescent lighting. Everybody, like everything was, all the floor plan was just like cubicle after cubicle. You can imagine just like these multiple cubicles that have little walls, and so that, there's a little bit of that the person on the other line can hear you. But it was a very sterile environment. There was no creativity there. So if you're in a cluttered, hectic, overworked environment, that stimuli is going to affect your creativity. It's going to suck the life out of you, essentially. So you need to think about having this positive, enthusiastic, even playful, because playful is going to stimulate that childlike creativity and innocence in your thinking. Our environment has a lot to do with our inner world. And I talk about this all the time. I think that our inner world is basically like showing us this external hologram of what we're thinking in our mind. So the people that you meet, the people that you communicate with, the environment that you're in, the way that your home is designed, all of those things are showing you a picture of what it looks like on the inside. So we want to keep playful and motivated to be creative and innovative. Declutter things, change things up, move the furniture around, change where you sit, put art on the walls, take art off the walls. Surround yourself with fun and playful supplies. So, a lot of people have those little brain tools, or the little balls that, show you the momentum and how momentum can just keep on going and going. Those things are fun. The little birds that drink the water, just the way that the water is moving inside of that bird, that it goes and takes. Those are things that are fun, that kind of liven up and make things interesting in your environment. So make them beautiful. The next tip that I thought was really, really important is know your biorhythms. And I talked about that yesterday. I call it the biorhythm I talk about is called the prime performance window. This is a window when you're at your peak thinking. For me, it's 6 hours, 6 hours a day. There's 6 hours a day where it's from this time to this time. Mine happens to be from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. From this time to this time, I am like the most potent performer. I could get probably 10 hours of work done in that 6 hours, or maybe even more if I really focus on it. But if I'm going really gently, I can get, 8 to 10 hours of work done in that, 5 to 6 hour window before I start to kind of dwindle off. And in the afternoon, I'm kind of like fluffy, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go take a 2 hour nap, and then I'll go back and I'll answer the emails and do some of the low priority things that I need to do today to get done. So note the times when you're most creative and have the most structure in your day. Once that structure is met, then you can, do your other pursuits, the things that are going to bring you happiness. So if you're a morning person, schedule all of that prime performance stuff that you need to do in the morning. If you wake up like me at 5 a.m. and that's your wake up time, and maybe you like to go back to sleep for like 30 minutes and just kind of like doze off and then get ready for work, then do that. Just listen to your biorhythm. If you're a night person, do all, like, if you're gonna have to wake up in the morning, like wake up according to what your time, like what you feel is, and do all the mundane stuff in the morning. And then once night hits, like if your prime time is from like 5 to 10 or 5 to midnight, then do all your prime stuff then. Listen to your body. Your body is telling you what it needs and what it doesn't need. So if you like to wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning and then, take your time to get to work, and maybe you get to work at 11 or noon, and then from then on, like maybe it's a 3 to 10 window, that's your prime performance time. Go there, do that thing. Modify your schedule to your biorhythm if you can, okay? I don't want to go through all of these because I do talk about them quite a bit, but those were two on this page, I think, that I wanted to chat about. Oh, yeah, practice curiosity throughout the day, asking what if questions. And the reason why I was like, sometimes the competency for one thing is good, and then for another thing, it's not so good. Asking what if this happened, in fear instead of what if we did this instead, is a little bit more positive. It's a little bit more light. So just when you're asking questions, just keep it really light, fun, and playful. Like, you definitely want to have that as you're developing your innovation and creativity frequency. Schedule creative expeditions for yourself each week and protect that time. So block out a certain time every week. Maybe it's Sunday morning. From the time that you get up until noon, you're not on your phone, you're reading a book, or you're going out in nature for a little like morning hike, or having a morning brunch with friends or your partner or whatever. Setting an intentional sacred time for you to do something interesting. Maybe you like to go see art or museums or festivals. Those things are outside of your normal time, so schedule those in so that you have something fun to look forward to, something that is going to fulfill your inner excitement and joy, and put those in and disrupt your routine a little bit. You can go alone or meet new people and have fun. Sometimes meeting new people is really, really helpful to kind of giving you a little bit more spark in your life, and which is why it's important to connect with others. Do you believe in energy vampires? I do believe in it. And I also know that I believe in energy boundaries too. So if you're dealing with an energy vampire, chances are you do not have strong energy boundaries. meaning that you're allowing people to come in with consent, because vampires need consent in order to enter the home, correct? So if you're looking at an energy vampire, they need consent to enter your energy. So you got to do something about protecting that and not giving consent to the vampire. The next thing I want to chat about here is center yourself for creativity. I think it's the last one that I'm going to pull from this book, and then I have a couple other sources here. But what I have found with innovation and creativity in particular, is that creativity will come a whole heck of a lot easier if you are centered in your mindset, you're centered in your body, you're present, very mindful, but very aware, and you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, meaning rest, digest, repair. When you're in that, you're getting enough sleep. When you're eating well and your body is able to digest the food that you're eating well. Because if your body is in survival mode, you could be eating the healthiest thing and it's not going to nourish your body the way that being in rest, digest, repair mode is going to be. So that is dictating, what am I grabbing from this food? Is it just going to go through, or is it something that I'm going to pull nourishment from? Our bodies are very intelligent here. Okay. So relax first, and then relax into your creative self, focusing on techniques that cultivate relaxed alertness. So I was talking about paying attention yesterday. We're paying attention to our somatic responses. Are we breathing? A lot of the times I find that I take a lot of shallow breaths, and so when I recognize that, I stop myself and I focus on the 4 breathing block method. 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, hold, and I do that until I feel a lot more relaxed. There are other ways that you can quickly do that. Putting your face in an ice bath, like just a little bowl of ice that can fit your face in there, that is the fastest way that you can, probably not the most convenient way, but if you're in a mode where you're just like in a panic attack or anxiety, that is going to be one of the fastest ways that you can quickly like bring your central nervous system back to a rested state and feeling okay. I also advise, like, they make these ice masks that you can just throw in the freezer, and they've got the little things in it that they're like little gels or whatever that you can just put on your face too. So putting ice on your face, because there's so many nerve endings in your face, is going to be one of the fastest ways to recenter your body and get your nervous system back into a parasympathetic state. Okay. So paying attention to your breath or a sound or images calms and quiets the mind, calms the body, quiets the mind. So start experimenting with different ways that are going to bring you into this rested state. The rested state is going to open up, because when you're in survival mode, you're in brain fog mode. So you want to get back into that rested state and where your body is repairing, because then your prefrontal cortex is going to start doing its executive function of problem solving, decision making, coming up with these creative ideas. It's going to tell your body, hey, it's okay, we're okay to be open and expanded, and now our energy can expand and we can plug into the divine and get these really beautiful, innovative, and creative ideas flowing through the body. Obviously, moving your body, singing a song, invoking the muse, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Sitting in silence. Sitting in silence is like really, really good for you. So if you're able to do that, if you're not able to do that, that's your body's telling you something. So I sit in silence quite often. In fact, I think some people probably think I might be a little crazy, because I'll just be sitting in here like reading stuff, researching for hours with no music, no sound. Like, I don't want to be distracted. I just want to sit in silence and like think about, what am I reading? How is this It brings in so much more information when I do that, okay? And most of all, enjoy yourself. So find things that are going to bring you lots of joy. Do affirmations if you need to. Saying word affirmations is so good for you because the world, as I believe it, was put together by, if you think about the word universe, the universe is one word, right? And so, or one saying, verse, whatever that means. It's speaking things into existence, basically. So think about that. Okay, now 11:34. We're doing really good. Everybody's here. Okay, now that we've kind of covered that, we're gonna run into. We've kind of talked a little bit about innovation. We've talked about creativity as far as the Institute of Social and Emotional Intelligence has reviewed. And I find their information to be really, really valuable as a structure. But I like to add a little bit more flair and flamboyance to my teachings. So, creativity is the proof that the divine never stopped creating, it just moved through you. So now, when we're connecting to the divine source, that essence of creativity that we get is that burst of brilliance. And I want to show you guys something. So, a lot of what I found with, let me see if I can find it here. A lot of what I found as far as the creativity part is actually stemmed from me being a human design reflector. And if you're unfamiliar with human design, you can see here that this is the body. So this is the head and then down to the sacral. So that's the root. Reflectors have no definition in this. And they're very rare, 1%. It was a whole situation, whatever. And then the strategy for that design is to wait 28 days. And if you're impatient sometimes and you're like, I just want the information now, well, welcome to the club because, I had to kind of explore what that looks like. So I created this little roadmap of what it's like to wait in a reflector strategy. So the first one is wait. Obviously, waiting 28 days. So this is where I started to really like think, okay, what about waiting is good? And that's why I say sitting in silence and waiting for information to come in. So the way that you rest, and I think that, if you're not a reflector, this will be helpful for you as well. But the first thing that you're going to do is rest deeply without guilt. Okay. And that is where you're sitting in that rest, digest, repair state, truly resting, not guilty about the fact that you're just sitting in silence, okay? You gotta let yourself do that. If you have so much anxiety, so much worry that you cannot sit and truly be in silence and reflection and meditation, then that there's some nervous system issues that are going on that need to be addressed. A true reflector wisdom drops in when you stop trying to make it. And a lot of the times we're trying to force a solution because we're so time driven and we're so impatient and things got to go, go, go. And, these systems of business are like make, money, 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 bottom line, bottom line, bottom line, whatever it is. And I'm no stranger to the business cycle because I've been in the business industry for a number of years, and my career is like my defined career at this point is a supply chain procurement. I don't know, expert. I guess is at this point. It's been more than 10 years. So when you stop trying to make things happen and you sit and you wait, that is dropping into this beautiful feminine energy that is going to help you connect to the divine. And I say feminine energy, it doesn't mean that you as a man don't have access to it, because you're all masculine. We all have masculine and feminine energy in ourselves. And I'm putting a guide together right now that is defining what masculine energy is, what feminine energy is, and how we're going to harmonize those. I'm sorry, it's for women only at the moment. Quick question. Did you hear that the Eye of Horus is supposed to be the pineal gland? I did not hear that, but the pineal gland is very important, and it's, connected to your third eye, which is, helping you see. It's like right in the eyeball section. So that doesn't surprise me that the Eye of Horus would be associated with that. So true reflector wisdom drops in when you stop trying to make it. And I would argue that it's not just for reflectors. This is designed for reflectors, my little my little sheet that I created. But the idea of sitting in silence and waiting is going to help you. Okay. Now, once we've waited and we're really truly resting without guilt, and we can kind of meditate on the thing, we're going to move into sensing. So now we're going to tune into the deep visceral knowledge or knowing of a situation. We're going to look at the situation, and now that we're, clean from all these distractions and obscurities, and we're resting and our mind is expanded, now we can tune into what is the deep visceral knowing of this situation. The reflector's superpower is wearing and absorbing people's environments. So not everybody can do this. Most people, I think, can to a certain degree, because of the open energy centers in my body. Being a reflector, it is a superpower to be able to absorb everybody. I would argue that some design types are still able to absorb, but when you have definitions in these areas, when you have those definitions, it's going to be an authority for you. So you're going to be able to tap into that, whereas I don't have that ability to tap into those things all the time. So wearing and absorbing people and environment. So if I'm in an environment and I'm looking at it, I can look at it and tune in to the deep visceral goings on of the whole system. And then I'll start asking questions. Okay, what's going on in this system? What's going on in that system? Even person to person, like I can tell when something is bothering them. I can tell, like I have this divination of like, oh my gosh, like I need to ask these questions to those people. So it really is tuning in to what, Christians might call the Holy Spirit. But it's really just tuning into the situation and people and really looking at it from this big systematic picture. The next piece is alignment. So alignment is important when we're waiting for this creative burst of brilliance. Reflectors are known as kind of the oracles of the human design system. Like they're the ultimate feminine energy. They're the ultimate connection to divine. And you can see that in their energy sources. We're very receptive to everything that's going on around us. And it's important for us to like not wear that for too long, that we're not it. Like we can get rid of it, which is a beautiful system to be a part of. So when you're looking at alignment, you're in the right place with the right people, and your system calibrates and aligns to it. So it's aligning emotionally, it's aligning physically, it's aligning energetically, like you're connected to the situation. And if you're in the wrong situation where the wrong people are there, the wrong places, if you'll know when you're in the wrong place because you're so tuned into your intuition because you're rested. Now you can hear your system and what it's speaking to, because you're the central control system here. Okay, so once you're in alignment, then that's when these bursts of brilliance will occur. And when aligned, you have these electric, inspired bursts of creativity. And this can show up also as truth telling, guidance, or decision making. You're going to have this burst of brilliance, which is the name of today's podcast, Burst of Brilliance, because it is the inspiration that brings creativity and truth telling, guidance, decision making. It's the thing that helped me develop the Digital Age series that I'm working on. It's the thing that inspired me to continue to do that. Creating this little gem here was also a burst of brilliance. It was a beautiful moment of clarity that I had when I kept on seeing all these reflectors. I'm part of reflector groups. All these reflectors saying, oh my gosh, the 28-day wait cycle, like, what do you do? Oh my gosh, it's so daunting. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I've just not made decisions and wasted a lot of time from not waiting and like being really reactive and making a decision, and then it's the wrong decision, and then all of a sudden 2 years later I find myself back in the same problem. Like, I didn't solve it. Now I've had to, like, I took the scenic route and I have come back to the road, but maybe I had to backtrack a little bit because I missed filling up the gas in my vehicle, and now I have to go back and redo the road. So there's different ways that you can have these bursts of brilliance. Oh, don't worry about interrupting. It's fine. I enjoy it. I'm all over the place all the time. Okay. Let's see what my next piece is here. So when I think about creativity, I do think of it as a frequency, and it being on one of the scales that is measured in the social and emotional intelligence test is supporting that thought as well. So think of creativity more as a frequency, and it's not necessarily a task, it's a frequency. So you can be in creative mode for a long period of time and all of a sudden drop out of it. And I always like to look at things and honor the cycles of life. So if you're creative, 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 and then there's like this month where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even do anything. I can't solve any problems. I can't be creative. I just want to like stop working on that muscle, that connection. That's okay too. Like, give yourself time to rest, because one of the I've been doing coaching. Been taking coaching classes quite a bit. And one of the interesting things that I've observed while being in these courses is that the women that are in the courses with me will, we've all got our issues that we're working out. But one of the things that I noticed that was kind of beautiful was, my body was, somebody was saying, like, oh, I was exhausted. I couldn't even like clean the dishes. I just wanted to go lay down, but I felt a little guilty about it. But instead of feeling guilty about it, I just went and slept for like 12 hours. And then after sleeping for that 12 hours and honoring my body and what its needs were, even though I knew I had all these deadlines, as soon as I woke from that 12 hours, I had this burst of energy. I got all of that stuff done and more. And I was like I was just creating all kinds of things. So there is something to be said about having a rest day and really truly being in rest. Like I said, this is supporting the parasympathetic nervous system that your body needs to be in order to access this innovation and creative spark that we all have innately. sometimes blocks aren't just these spiritual or physical blocks, they can show up as intimacy blocks. And so, look at what level of intimacy you are in your relationships. So if you have a partnership, what type of intimacy is there? Is it is it blocked? Are you unable to be, do you have this fear of intimacy? Or do you have a fear of connecting with others or having them see you or being unseen? What is the fear that's blocking you there? And really work on uncovering that and looking deeper into, why is this sitting in my system? So your creativity is not yours, it's alone from this divine space. So when I tell you that you have to like rest and meditate to be really truly connected and have like I will tell you that this year, since resting and really like giving it merit, I've had the most expansive ideas come into my mind. Like the innovation and the creativity of creating the digital age, of working on the reflectors, like finding solutions for them. Like as soon as my body is in rest and I'm honoring that feminine state of like I guess it really wouldn't be too feminine. It'd be a little bit more masculine, but masculine gift of silence and meditation and connection is a little bit more feminine. Like I'm embracing these different energies and finding harmony in it. And the more that I do that, the more wild and big and connected I am to my divine source that's feeding me these beautiful creative ideas because we are creative beings and we want to be connected to that. So, I know it's mostly geared towards women, but I've been writing this self guided course. It's a 30-day course, and it's really connecting with the inner masculine, inner feminine, or as I call it, the inner king and inner queen of your system. And one of the pieces that I teach in that to give it this really solid frame, this really solid container, is looking at the masculine energy as that source of containment. In my workbook, you need to have really solid boundaries, or as I call them, these sovereign laws written into your system as a framework to hold yourself with boundaries, to hold yourself with structure so that if something happens, you're not collapsing. You have that masculine structure framework to hold that flow of creativity, which is this feminine energy. So if you think about the grail, you can think about the grail being this masculine energy, and then the liquid that goes into it, it could be a multiple amount of things. It could be water, wine, maybe like mint juleps. You can throw that in there. You can put all kinds of liquid into this container, but the container remains the same. But that feminine flow of creativity or whatever the juices that are in there, those continue to move and change. So you've got to have that masculine structure and you've got to have it be solid and firm so it's not falling to pieces. Now, if you had an area of your masculine frame that was weaker, then you're going to start to leak. And I call that energy leaking. I think a lot of people actually use that term. And and the that flow is also important because that's really what we're talking about today is figuring out novel ideas, things that are outside of the norm, or in statistics it's called an outlier. You're trying to find that novelty, which is the outlier of whatever the norm is when you're sitting in this really high frequency of innovation and creativity. So, innovation without boundaries is chaos. It's creating things and constantly creating things. So I've been victim to this because I didn't have that strong structure of, okay, this is how I'm going to be in this container. My container was leaking, and this is another burst of brilliance. Well, I'm noticing this in myself. I'm going to create a course that's going to help women get back on course, and in that, I'm going to be kind of experimenting. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? What are the different approaches that we can look at the situation in order to solve the problem? So the problem that I saw is I don't have a very strong masculine framework for all of this creative, feminine, whatever I'm doing over here. So it needed boundaries, and innovation needs boundaries too. It's all fractal. So the innovation, if you don't have boundaries, it's just chaos. It's creating this, creating that. I have tons of unfinished projects that I don't even think I'm ever going to finish. It just was a creative outlet for me to just be doing something, being busy or whatever it was. I mean, there was a meaning behind it, but it just didn't have the nice traction that you want your ideas to have. So creativity without a vessel is going to leak. So it does need that container, that structure, that framework to hold itself into and then go somewhere. Which is why instead of sitting and trying to like create a whole demonstration, a quick demonstration of what is the digital age, blah, blah, I was like, okay, I had to start from the beginning and start free flowing all of my creativity into a place that is going to have structure. So I created a playlist, I created a separate series for it. That was my burst of brilliance. And then the container is keeping it in this playlist format so that in the future I can go and take all of the good nuggets of information from that and compile it into my final presentation of here's what the digital age is, here's what we need to look out for, here's how we're going to overcome it, and here's the motto, here's this, here's that. And I'm just keep on adding into that container so that it's all nice and neatly packaged so that in the future, when I'm ready to have it be a nice presentation, I can hire somebody and say, hey, look, here's my playlist. Here's my thought process. Here's the vision. I need to hire you to do all of the editing for me because I just don't have, I don't have the time to do that. And I don't have time is a big resource for me. I don't have the attention to pay to it. I have all these other things that I'm working on, and I need somebody to really be my right hand and get this delivered in a nice, clean format. Okay, so I'm looking at having my own boundaries of knowing what my ability is, what my resources are, and still creating and putting it into a container and still flowing creative feminine energy. I'm still flowing that out. So I like to organize some ideas in cycles. So you can do that where it's in cycles. Like here's where the original thought comes from. And then, as I develop all those original thoughts, then I'm going to hire somebody that's going to be able to do like some video and information management for me. And then it's going to move into the delivery. How am I going to deliver this information? Maybe I start doing keynotes. Maybe I start doing webinars, lectures. Maybe I go into workplaces and I focus on certain areas that I've worked on. Here's digital burnout. This is what it looks like. This is what it can possibly come out in diagnoses. I'm looking at all of that information and putting it all together in that cycle, and then finally just have it be a repetitive thing. Like that's now, here's the new process of delivering that information that I started as a new idea and now it's come to fruition. And, perhaps I'm getting paid for it at in that moment. Whew, it's a lot of good stuff today. Okay, so the burst of brilliance here is the womb is the dark and sacred, and innovation is seated in silence and not noise, which is why it's so important to meditate, to connect with yourself. If you've got to go out and hug a tree, like go out and hug a tree. If you notice that you're leaking energy, some time energy into doom scrolling and you're just on Facebook all day or on Instagram and you're just flipping through reels and trying to find the next exciting thing that's going to happen in your life, like, you're not living in your body. Like, remove yourself from that and like really focus in on, okay, what am I doing? Or don't think about anything either. Silence is a beautiful seed for having these new ideas come in. Okay, we talked about practices. I do want to talk about archetypes, at least the muse, a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the muse. So, when I was 21, I had just started college and I was getting my associate's degree in business administration, naturally. Um, and it wasn't, I had this teacher who ended up becoming my mentor. And I would just ask her like all kinds of business questions. Should I do this? Should I do that? What about this? What about that? And she was just really inspired by my quirky, feminine nature. Like I was very creative. I was very outspoken. I had all kinds of wild ideas. I was like this wild type muse and I'm probably still would relate to that, only not as I'm a little bit more refined and matured, but back in at that time, I was like just, oh my gosh, da 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 da. And little did I know she was going to get her master's, a book deal. Yeah, book deal. I was just thinking about that yesterday too. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting a book. I'm going to write a book on this. It's going to be amazing. But first you've got to like put those, things in a container. Anyways, so I'm like, little did I know she was pursuing her master's degree, and years later she was like, you were my muse to me even going back to school and pursuing my master's degree. And I was shocked at that. I was like, I don't even know what that means, because I was like all of 21 and really, really naive, but really open and just, like positive and always flowing ideas and always asking questions and always being curious, and that is the muse for us. The muse is this really connected piece that we have to our creative type. So a muse is somebody that is inspiring you to do a thing. So for her, it was, I'm going to go back to get my master's degree, and you as my muse is inspiring me for adult education. How do I refine adult education? Because when you go for your master's, you have to have like a thing that you're working towards. So, muse archetype and energy is something that's going to inspire you. It's like this divine seductress, not shouting. She's definitely like humming a beautiful tune inspiring you through brush strokes, or maybe if you're writing, if you have obsessions, she's waiting for you to listen, and she is there just going to inspire you. This is a divine and sacred conversation. So somebody might inspire you, or even a darker element of that would be obsessing about somebody. So if somebody's obsessing about somebody, that's a dark muse energy. But if they're inspiring you, it's this light muse energy. So just think about there's a kind of this there's kind of a little bit of a dance with the muse of whether it's going to be a light or dark dance. So be really honest with yourself. But the muse doesn't belong to you or anyone. She's just visiting. And she's visiting to give you this inspiration. And so many of our movies are on that. I can't remember the movie I was watching yesterday, but it was about John Dillinger, played by Johnny Depp, and maybe you guys know what the name of the movie is. But he had this beautiful muse that inspired him to possibly change from going and robbing banks to like sailing off into the sunset and living their best life. But it's always after this like one last thing, you know, this one last bank robbery, this one last thing. And it got really sloppy in the end, and didn't turn out really well for him, and it broke her heart. But he had her as his muse of, you know, before it was, what are you going to do with your life? Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to do Public Enemies. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Public Enemies. And so I'm watching it and I'm just like, at the beginning, they're talking about John Dillinger, and he's like, just really good at robbing banks, right? It's like, that is the way that they earn a lot of money at that time. And it's, you know, it's based in the late 1920s or early 1930s. And I think it was the 1930s. And they're asking him questions of like, oh, you know, when you get this score, what are you going to do with it? And he's like, I don't care. I just live day to day, right? I don't think about my future. I just think about right now in the present. What am I doing? And trying to live my best life with all of this stolen bank money. And, you know, when he meets this girl, she's at a coat counter, I think. So she's working, you know, this really menial job, checking coats in for a club. And he meets her and he's now inspired by her. Now he's starting to change his outlook of, I don't look past today. I don't look at tomorrow. I don't look at a year from now. I don't look at anything beyond that. But now that he has this muse, he's been inspired by her. And he's like, maybe we go and, you know, sail away to, you know, and go to different countries, Rio, and, you know, anywhere else, just whatever we can do to, his words, fall off the map, is what he said. And so he had this beautiful muse energy of having her around. And so that's what she does. You drop everything and you let her ruin your plans a little bit. And he did that, right? He did that. His plans were, I don't have plans. And then all of a sudden, he meets this woman, inspired by her, changes his plans because she's ruined his current cycle for whatever it's worth. Like, you know, he obviously was a bank robber and committing crimes. And so there's, you know, this element of danger. But he still was inspired by this woman. And, you know, that's what I advise to some of the younger people that come to me for advice of, you know, who should I, what should I, what should I, who should I date? What kind of things am I looking at? How do I know she's the one? Blah, 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 blah. I advise these young men and I say, well, first and foremost, you know what you want. And then second, find somebody that inspires you to be greater than you are today. And that is the muse. Okay, so find that muse. So I'd like to talk about innovation. I'm going to switch paths over here. We're going to talk about innovation as a sacred or divine rebellion. So instead of continuously going down the same path of what we've always done it this way, instead of going down that path, now you're getting these divine whispers of, oh, well, what if we look at it this way? What if we look at it that way? Can we save time doing this? Can we save time doing that? We're 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 doing a little bit of a divine rebellion in like getting this unseen information, bringing it into our system, and then looking at things in a whole new way. And the Matrix, like he did that. You know, you're watching this almost real time situation of where he sees the Matrix and he's like, whoa, oh my gosh, huge insight. I can't believe this is the way the architecture is structured. And now I see things in a different way. It's like once he looked into the binary codes, he was able to see the world a lot differently. And there was a certain level of rebellion in that, right? So the muse is not here to build what already exists. We're not here to do things the same way. We're here to show what is possible. So reflectors are kind of like that in a way. Thanks, Mike. They mirror what is possible. So we're looking at the possibilities as a reflector, and the muse is kind of a similar way where they're reflecting something different back to you. Oh, you know, being around this person, I didn't know what I wanted to go to the master's to get my master's in, and you know, I'm an educator. Now that I have this muse, it's really helped me to redefine and be really purposeful of what my vision is, where I'm going, the goals I'm setting within that structure. And so we're just looking at all of the possibilities. I like to talk about 5D. 5D is all of the time and all of the probabilities of anything that could happen. So when you're pulling from 5D, you're pulling from all kinds of timeline and outcome possibilities and bringing it into your current 3D realm. So you're going past the 4D realm, which is time, and then you're going into 5D, you're bringing that back. And you can definitely do that. Fifth dimension, yeah, 5D. So innovation as remembering timelines your ancestors dreamed about. So sometimes I like to think like, you know, what were my ancestors thinking about? What were they, did they want things that happened to my father or my grandfather or his grandfather? Did they want those things to happen, or did they desire some form of reformation or change in the ancestral lineage? And if that was their calling, is that something that I can answer to in my current timeline? So you remember timelines from then, and now you're building and rewiring your current timelines in your current ancestral path that your ancestors dreamed about, right? So innovation is this portal. And I like to talk about portals. We're birthed from portals. Our mothers are our portals that we're birthed from, unless you were born in a test tube. That's a possibility. But we're looking at this portal, this innovation portal, this creativity portal, and we're birthing something new out of it. And that's the portal is something that brings you something new. If you walk to it through it too quickly, you might miss God at the door. So, you know, in your innovation, don't just rush it. It can't be rushed. You've got to be rested. You've got to be in silence. You've got to be rested. Your central nervous system is depending on you for this. Okay? So don't walk through your innovation too quickly. Don't try to birth things and then just keep on birthing. Really give it time and energy to like nourish it to like a baby. Like a baby needs at least 2 years of like constant attention, constant touching, constant talking, constant feeding, constant cleaning. It needs all of this assistance. So treat your innovations like a little baby. Be gentle with it. Don't, don't share it with everybody. Share it with, your family or the close friends that come and visit you. You're not going into like a public place and, passing your baby around to everybody. So treat your innovations like a little baby. All right. So now that we've looked a little bit at innovation, we're going to look at creativity as a muse fueled practice. So, creativity is being in communion with the muse. So, whatever that muse is in your life, it's this sacred dance, and it's seductive and vulnerable, and you're in full surrender to it. It's enchanting you. So, you want your creativity to be enchanting, not just to you, because you're going to be re-delivering that creativity to whatever your audience is, right? So you want to just be in communion and in dance with all of the parts that inspire you of being with that muse. So the muse chooses those who are willing to be pierced. Creativity is going to choose you because you're going to be open, because you've been resting, relaxing, silent, meditating. You want to be pierced by the muse or the creativity. You want to be open to it. You don't want to be closed. You want to be open to connecting to that divine source. So you're going to be looking at atmosphere. When I had been going through the social and emotional intelligence development tips, one of those is creating your room that you want to be creative in a way that is inspiring to you. You don't think I have these bats on my wall just because, they're cute. They're there because they're inspiring me. It's reminding me a little bit about October. It's reminding me a little bit about, Halloween time, which I was born in October and it just makes me happy. I love October. It's cold. I have my last year's Litha crown, which I should probably change out for my new one, but like every year I'm adding like all these flowers, I'm adding all these plants, I'm adding these beautiful things on my wall. I'm making my environment comfortable and relaxing and peaceful. It's where I go to unwind. So really think about creating your atmosphere and really make whatever impact you're going to make an unforgettable one. It's your service, it's your purpose to the entire collective in order to be doing these things. So think about, how am I going to be in service by relaxing my state, by really connecting with my creativity? And some people are way more, they're way better at accessing creativity than others. My children are like super creative. You think I'm creative? My children are like quadruple me in creativity. They come up with the most wild, profound, deeply wisdom filled ideas and experiences, and the way that they see things is just so inspiring to me as somebody who is already inspiring others, but to see my children and other people's children of how they're inspirational is beautiful. So, really look at that. And remember, creativity is not just coming from you. There's no source in your body where creativity is coming from. It is coming from your divine connection, okay? It's coming through you, through that. Okay. So we talked about the container and the flow of the masculine and the feminine. just want to see if there's any other notes here that I have not um, shared with you guys. Maybe I should just like anchor this in of the practices of cultivating this energy. So, in cultivating that muse or the creative energy, take like 5 to 10 minutes and clear something that is cluttered. Maybe it takes a little longer, like 15 or 20 minutes. But what's that in respect to looking at something that's been sitting on your table, in your bathroom? Like, I'm not a typical woman where like the bathroom is just the whole thing is just covered in all kinds of beauty products. I don't exist like that. It's like all of my products, they might look a little chaotic, but they're all contained in one area. They're all contained in a drawer. They're not spread out everywhere. There's order in my bathroom. I'm not the typical woman that has all these things everywhere. I keep them, I keep my countertops clean. I like to have my kitchen countertops clean. I like to have the table clean and ready to be used for its intended purpose. I don't like to keep clutter lying everywhere. So, really look at the clutter in your life and spend, if you don't want to spend 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes clearing it away because maybe it's just a little bit more overwhelming than normal, block out time every day, just 10 minutes. 10 minutes, I'm going to go and I'm going to root through this and I'm going to figure out what's garbage and what I'm keeping. And I'm going to put the garbage in the garbage, keep in the keep pile. And then spend another 10 minutes the next day. Okay, now I'm going to continue going through this until it's cleared out and all the garbage is removed. And now you have all the things that you want to keep. Now figure out, okay, where do I want to keep this? If it's paperwork, file it somewhere. If it's objects, figure out if you want to display it somewhere or if you want to put it in a keepsake trunk or box or whatever and throw it in the attic because maybe there's not a use for it now, but maybe later you want to like pass it down to your children. Like really think about be intentional with the objects that are around you. Being in clutter is going to cause chaos in your mind. And it's just a reflection of the chaos in your mind, that clutter. So look at those things, figure out creative ways to get through it. Sometimes you can make altars if that sounds like something that you would like to do. I have bookshelves that I have all my little cute trinkets and stones and jewelry and art that I've collected or created, and I keep them all on my shelves looking really nice so that I can admire it whenever I feel like admiring it. Move your body. The next one is move your body without an agenda. So this is looking at the way that you dress. I constantly change my wardrobe. I always pick and wear things that make me look and feel beautiful, that are inspiring to me and opening up in a feminine way. I noticed that for many years I would wear pants and a sweatshirt or a t-shirt, and it was jeans and a t-shirt, jeans and a t-shirt. Some of them were flattering and some of them weren't. And there came a moment I was like, I don't like, I noticed that in that, wearing that, it was a reflection of me just broadcasting masculine energy. And I said, I don't want to be in masculine energy anymore. What do I do to become more feminine? Well, one is wearing dresses. I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. And now, 5 years later, all I wear is dresses. In fact, I had to go buy pants the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to wear these. I don't feel comfortable in it. But if I'm going to get these roles that are in manufacturing, you obviously have to wear jeans or pants or whatever in order to move through the manufacturing facilities. So there's certain rules that you have to abide by. But in my daily life, I'm wearing dresses all the time. And in my home, they're going to be like the most summer strappy spaghetti dresses like you could ever imagine. because that is what makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel feminine. And if I'm going out, it's going to be a feminine dress and it's going to look a certain way. So moving your body without an agenda is including like how you dress yourself. So then the other thing is dance or sway or exercise. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm doing trampoline exercises like on my rebounder that I spent almost $1,000 on, right? It's like an expensive rebounder, name brand, but it's the best way for me to move my body. It gets the lymphatic juices moving, it gets the, it's a really healthy way of not harming joints, but moving around. It's just like being on a trampoline, and it's fun. It's like a fun, playful exercise that I can do for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes at a time, and like get my body moving. You've got to be able to move your body. You don't want to atrophy your system, because once you start atrophying your physical body, you'll start to notice other things atrophying. And we talked about yesterday cognitive power, cognitive sovereignty is the ability to think, feel, focus, and what was the other one? Can't remember the other one now. But we're moving our body, we're dressing our body in the way that makes us look well put together, confident. It has a lot to do with how you're posturing your body. So, if are you sitting with your shoulders slightly back and your neck held high, and walking around with confidence? Like, you've got to be able to do that. The next one is keeping a journal. So you can keep a journal and just write things down that inspire you. A lot of people, I don't know how big they are, but it's like a 2x3 little booklet that they can keep in their pocket, or maybe you have a journal that you carry around with you. Something that you can, some people even use their phones. I think it's better to write things down. For me, that's how I better am able to better remember. But writing things down, things that inspire you, things like aha moments that come to you, just get in the pattern of writing those things down. And when you feel the desire to write or create, don't push it off until you think it's the right time. Like when you get that inspiration, act on it as soon as you can. It might seem irrational in the moment, but you want to answer that creative call because it does come just in these little bursty moments. Like my little reflector strategy thing came in this like moment. I was in the middle of something and then I was like, oh my gosh, I have this idea. Now I'm going to write it down and I'm going to make this little chart on it so that I can show this to the other reflectors as a assistance to them in their own personal strategies. I absolutely think everyone should have a journal. Men should have it. There's no difference between men and women in creativity. I just told you that my sons are like quadruple as creative as I am, and they're both men. Like, well, one's a teenager. I guess he's kind of a man because he acts like he's much older than that. Okay, and then the other thing is know when to stop mid sentence, mid paint stroke, mid kiss, if that's what's inspiring you in the moment. Like, know when to stop. Don't just consume, consume, consume. Like, know when to stop and really like draw out the creativity, because that creativity is going to like be continuously pulled if you're in the middle of a project. So the key thing here is being present, being centered, being connected, and being rested and relaxed. So there's a few different muses that you can be looking at, I kind of touched on a little bit of them, but you've got the wild muse, which is this unpredictable, raw, and erotic type muse. It's going to inspire you. It's no surprise that intimacy or eroticism is connected with the muse and connected with creativity because it is all a part of the sacral chakra, which is in the womb area. It's, you know, tied to the genitals. So that raw, erotic, unpredictable piece of the wild muse might be really inspiring to you because that's where the portal is. That's where creation comes from. Okay. Now, the Holy Muse is going to be a lot more tender, innocent, devotional. This one might inspire a different type of man or woman in that maybe they want to be a little bit more traditional. Maybe they want to go down the more the more religious route or the more spiritual route and be like that, like I said, just this really beautiful innocence attached to it. The trickster muse is a playful, chaotic, and elusive one. This one is like one that comes in and then comes out. Might just really come in and wreck things and be really playful and just really engaging, and you really like that because it's like maybe some of the opposite energy that you have, and you're like, I really enjoy that chaotic energy. Be careful with this one, it's a trickster, but it can be really inspiring to you. The shadow muse is a little destructive, very provocative, and initiatory. So this one might initiate you into realms that you dare not go into. And so you really want to be also careful with the shadowy muse because how much of you gets destroyed in that is up to you, really. It makes me think of like the the world of artistry. Like there's a lot of chaos and destruction that come into those fields. Like Amy Winehouse is somebody that I think about as this like shadowy muse. She like she was destroying her life while she was like inspiring all these people. Everybody knows who Amy Winehouse is, right? And she was very provocative. She was very destructive in her own life, but all these people were just really drawn to her. She had this beautiful, soulful music, and the message of that music was very inspiring to millions of people. So just be careful on the shadowy muse because it could drag you down a little bit, and it might take a little bit of time to kind of jump out of that. And then finally, one other muse that I'll kind of mention is this oracle muse. So this one is a more prophetic, visionary, and cosmically connected muse. And so that one might kind of put you in the future, like take you on this time dance and to see things in a different perspective, not necessarily this earthly perspective, but like in this cosmic perspective where like there's all sorts of possibilities and ideas and the future landscape and everything like that. Okay, been going. It's been almost 100 minutes. It's 12:30. I gotta jump off in like 3 minutes. So let's see if I can get through the rest of this. So I want to talk about one of the clearest innovations and kind of the biggest one that I'm working on right now, which is my Digital Age series. So this one is going to be huge. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm reframing the rise of AI in digital systems as a part of a spiritual, psychological, and cultural metamorphosis, okay? I'm looking at this as maybe my oracle muse is being activated, but It's not just technological evolution that I'm working on here. This is a digital reformation. If we were going through Reformation and after the Light Age, we were going through the Reformation, and that, you know, took pieces of the Magna Carta and John Locke and all that stuff to create the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And then the Industrial Age took in the innovation of technology, like manufacturing and all this stuff. Right now, we're going through this digital revolution. We're going through a digital revolution, and in that revolution, there's going to be a revelation of reformation. So, this is a huge metamorphosis that is not just me here philosophizing. This is something that is going to be big, and speaking it into awareness and into the ethos is going to make it very impactful. So, what is going on about this particular series that makes it innovative? It's fusing ancient archetypes with modern technology. And people have done this. Like, I'm not saying that that is revolutionary in its own right or revelationary in its own right, but I'm taking the new concept of AI and what that means and how we're living with it. And I am fusing it together with biblical, mythical, archetypal, and psychological patterns. So, in some of it, I'm talking about how the Light Age and the American founders, or how Inanna and Persephone are like, we really need to dive deep into our shadowy aspects. Like, we're like, all the work that I'm doing right now is a huge innovation where I'm like pulling from different timelines. I'm gathering from all these different resources, and I'm putting it together into this series that's going to be innovative. You're welcome. Thanks, Mike, for joining. So I'm remixing time, and I'm looking at soul, and I'm looking at circuits, the circuitry of the digital age. The other thing is celestic intelligence. Like, by creating that term, celestic was already out there, but by creating that verse, so I spoke into existence celestic intelligence, it's not something that anybody else is using anywhere. This is something that I coined as a way to help you navigate from the digital age, or through the digital age, while maintaining spiritual, emotional, and ancestral integrity. This is a wisdom that neither AI nor data or anything can replicate. It's only something that humans can really look at and create and build something around. AI is going to have a hard time doing that. So, being this divine calibration, I'm looking at the system, which is like the digital stuff, the digital space, and then our spirit, which is like our soul connection to a divine creator. Two more, and then I got a boogie. But I'm reimagining sovereignty as a law of embodiment. In my self guided course for women, I'm looking at several different domains, and within each of those domains, I am helping them to craft a serious sovereign law. And I'm going to roll this out to men, but I wanted to start with women because I just see the bigger problem with women. But I'm helping them to draft and create and anchor in proclamations of these areas and domains within their life that is embodiment. So, time, we're looking at time leaks. How do you spend your time? What does each hour of the day look like? How are we going to change that? If you were going to be really intentional with your day, what would that day look like hour by hour? Like, let's get really serious with it. Then I'm looking at the body. Like, who are we letting into our body? Are we nourishing our body? Are we like, how are we touching our body? How are we connecting with it? I'm helping to create these really clear sovereign laws around these domains. It's not simply self-helping. This is showing people, women in particular, how to build and create this beautiful masculine framework within themselves so that they can, it's not manifesting. They're just being, they're existing in this world that they've lived in. And when people realize that the world that you have around you is the world that you're authoring, you now have a lot more control over your life. Okay? So we're looking at a quantum self. We're looking at treating our personal growth as a queendom, as I call it, or a kingdom. We're building this with structure, with real structure, with real authority, and knowing that the things that we develop within ourselves will be of consequence to the external world. So no more external validation seeking. Like, we're taking control and authority of our own body. Okay. And then in me doing this, doing the work that I'm doing, I'm living in my purpose. This is my purpose, is to be able to deliver this message to you. Like, I am merely the device that the divine cosmos is using to share with you guys. As a 6-2 reflector, I am the teacher hermit, role model hermit to the world. And as a reflector, I'm like to the whole world, right? It's not easy living by lunar design. A lot of the times I'm like, man, how nice would it be to have a splenic authority and to just know immediately by instinct what choice to make. Okay? No, I'm fully embraced, I'm fully embodied into what it is to be a 6 true reflector, and know that this is just a tool for me to use to deliver the most potent piece of me that will land with people. And not everybody is going to want to eat at my table, and that's fine. No, not everybody needs to eat at my table. So if you're here and you're enjoying it, you're enjoying the buffet that I'm delivering. So congrats to you. I'm an excellent cook. Okay. So I hope that this gives you a little bit more inspiration in your life, that it gives you this beautiful burst of brilliance. I do got a boogie. I love you guys. Thanks, Mike, for hanging out. Please, if you are watching this, I mentioned it at the beginning, but if you'd like to help support my cause, I do have a Buy Me a Coffee account. It is in my bio, and I would appreciate some support there if you guys feel led to do that. Money is just an energy, and so it does help to support and buffer up my back here. It's not necessarily needed, but it's appreciated. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will likely join you sometime later this week and deliver another Digital Age series part 9. And I think I might be doing it on social media influence. And so that'll be an interesting take. I hope you guys appreciated today. I'll see you guys next week if I don't see you later this week. And I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.